my pious husband is missing.
The baby I chose to have baptized is gone. Mr. Thompson, what's happening?
It's the rapture, Shauna. The rapture. The virtuous have gone to heaven, and the rest of us have been left below.
Predictions.
Specifically, those swirling around the year 2025.
We've got
some kind of out there episodes of The Simpsons.
and some pretty intriguing interpretations of, biblical prophecy.
It's wild how those two seemingly totally separate things kind of come together around like similar themes for what 2025 might have in store.
It is wild. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Hold on, The Simpsons.
But hear us out.
Trust us.
The Simpsons, they have this like uncanny ability to predict stuff that actually happens in the real world.
Yeah.
From Trump becoming president
To the 2008 financial crisis.
like they've nailed some big ones.
Yeah, and what makes it even more interesting is that a lot of times those predictions are kind of woven into the show's humor.
Right.
It's satirical, it's funny.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, are these writers just like super tuned into what's going on in society?
Right.
Or do they have some secret crystal ball they're not telling us about, hidden away in Springfield?
Okay, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Zeroes in on a handful of Simpsons predictions for 2025.
These are the ones that really jumped out at us.
We're talking about a major fire in Hollywood, another global economic meltdown, Mars colonization hitting some snags, virtual reality like taking a dark turn, and even whisperings of World War III.
Okay, so let's start with that Hollywood fire. Now, in the show, it's played for laughs, right? It's a comedy.
Yeah.
But it does tap into this real concern about wildfires, especially in California.
Right.
Climate change, drought conditions, that's a huge issue out there. So it's not totally crazy to think about a massive fire hitting Hollywood.
Exactly. And it's not just the environment.
No.
The economic predictions are, well, kind of unsettling.
Yeah.
Our source points out several episodes that hint at another major economic crisis. And given what's going on globally right now with inflation and all this political instability, it's not that surprising.
No, it's not. It's interesting how The Simpsons often use their platform to poke fun at these political and social issues, like these economic predictions.
Right.
Maybe they're reflecting these deeper anxieties we all have about wealth inequality or corporate greed, or just how fragile the whole global financial system is.
Yeah, it's like they're holding up this funhouse mirror to society, showing us all our fears and anxieties in a way that makes us laugh, but also kind of makes us squirm a little bit.
Makes you think, for sure.
Yeah. And then we've got these predictions about Mars colonization.
Okay, yeah.
Now remember, The Simpsons predicted a Mars colony way back in 2012. Obviously, that didn't happen.
Right.
But this 2025 prediction is a little different.
Okay.
It hints at setbacks and challenges, which, considering how ambitious space exploration is and all the logistics involved, that seems a bit more realistic.
Well, we do have companies like SpaceX really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in space travel, so
Woohoo.
Who knows, right? Maybe those Mars dreams aren't so far off after all. But speaking of technology, The Simpsons also have some predictions about virtual reality.
Right.
They're saying it's going to become even more intertwined with our lives, and not necessarily in a good way.
Yeah.
Which, aligns with a lot of the concerns people are voicing these days about the potential downsides of all this immersive technology.
Right. As VR becomes more common, more people are talking about how it could impact mental health, our social interactions, even our physical well-being.
Yeah.
And The Simpsons, in their own satirical way, seem to be echoing those concerns.
They imagine this future where VR becomes so addictive, so all-consuming, that it leads to all kinds of problems in society. Almost like a dystopian virtual reality nightmare.
Yeah, a nightmare scenario.
Makes you think twice about strapping on that headset, doesn't it?
Definitely makes you pause and think, what are we getting ourselves into?
But maybe the most sobering Simpsons prediction for 2025 has to do with World War III.
Yeah, that one's not exactly a happy thought.
No, not at all. Our source mentions a bunch of episodes that hint at escalating global conflicts.
Right.
And with all the geopolitical tension we're seeing in the world right now, it's hard not to feel a little uneasy about that one.
Yeah, it's interesting how those war-themed episodes often pop up during times when things are really tense internationally.
Really?
It's like the writers are tapping into this collective anxiety we all have about, the potential for things to really boil over.
Do you think The Simpsons are really onto something here, or are these just like random guesses disguised as clever satire?
Well, we have to remember, predictions aren't guarantees. The Simpsons have gotten things wrong too.
Of course.
But what's fascinating is how their predictions, even the ones that seem totally out there,
Right.
often connect with real trends, real anxieties, emerging technologies.
Right.
It makes you wonder, are they just really good at observing what's going on, or is there something more to it?
From Springfield to, get this, the Bible.
And before you click away thinking, wait, what?
What's going on?
Hear us out.
Yeah.
So The Simpsons, they use humor and satire to explore potential futures.
Right.
The Bible, it approaches predictions from a more spiritual and prophetic perspective.
Okay.
Our source highlights this concept of the last days or the end times and suggests that, according to some interpretations, we might already be living in this period of like major change and upheaval.
Yeah, and the source emphasizes it's not talking about a single doomsday event.
No.
But more like an extended period marked by specific signs and events.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is that a lot of these signs seem to align with what's going on in the world right now.
Exactly. What's super relevant to our focus on 2025 is the source's emphasis on 4 main signs of Jesus' return. It's described in Matthew 24. Disasters, changes within the church, distress in Jerusalem, and these like cosmic events.
Okay, let's break down those signs one by one, starting with disasters.
Right.
We're talking wars, famines, earthquakes, all the stuff that makes headlines and leaves us wondering if the world's falling apart.
But what's significant now is how much more frequent and intense they're becoming.
Okay.
It argues that maybe these disasters should be seen as like birth pains of a new world order rather than like pangs of death.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
And it connects to something we see in The Simpsons too. This idea of huge change coming, whether it's good or bad.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that not everyone interprets these signs the same way.
Right.
Some people see them as clear signs of the end times. Others see them as symbolic, representing spiritual or societal transformation.
So it's not necessarily about predicting the literal end of the world,
No.
but more about understanding these events within a bigger context of change and upheaval. It's about recognizing the signs of the times and, responding wisely.
Absolutely. Responding with wisdom and discernment.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to that second sign, all these changes happening within the church.
This one is really interesting.
Yeah.
This talks about a possible decline in faith, a rise in persecution, and even the gospel spreading to like every corner of the world.
Yeah.
It's like this weird mix of challenges and triumphs,
Yeah, it's a mixed bag for sure. Time period could be one where the church really gets tested, like a purification separating true faith from false teachings.
Right.
It also warns about these false prophets popping up,
Okay.
preaching messages of comfort and denial instead of like calling for real repentance.
So we got to be on the lookout for those smooth talkers, the ones promising easy answers and ignoring the tough stuff.
Exactly. It's a reminder to be really careful about what we're hearing, what messages we're buying into, especially when things are uncertain and scary.
Absolutely. Okay, sign number 3, Jerusalem in distress. This one gets a little cryptic. The source mentions the abomination of desolation.
Yeah.
Sounds like something straight out of a horror movie.
That phrase, it comes from the book of Daniel,
Okay.
and it's caused a lot of debate and different interpretations throughout history.
I bet.
But generally, people understand it to refer to some figure or some event that will desecrate the temple in Jerusalem.
Okay.
And that could lead to a lot of conflict and turmoil.
So it's not just like physical destruction.
Right.
There's a spiritual aspect to it too.
Yeah, a spiritual defilement, something that shakes the very foundation of faith. It's a powerful image.
Wow.
It speaks to the possibility of really profound upheaval and challenges to beliefs people have held for a very long time.
And finally, we've got the cosmic events.
Right?
The sun darkening, stars falling.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty epic.
Like something out of a sci-fi movie.
I know, right?
People often interpret those descriptions symbolically.
Okay.
They represent this dramatic upheaval, like the whole established order is flipped on its head.
Right.
A huge cosmic shift that happens right before the return of Christ.
So not necessarily literal astronomical phenomena.
Right. It's more like a metaphorical language to express how huge the changes taking place are.
Gotcha. And what's striking is how they both seem to focus on similar things: global conflict, economic instability, societal change and this feeling that something big is brewing.
Even though they're coming at it for totally different angles.
It's like they're both tuned into the same frequency, but also maybe transformative breakthroughs.
Exactly. And it raises the question, are these predictions just really sharp observations about trends that are already happening?
Right.
Or are they hinting at something more?
Yeah.
A real glimpse into what the future holds?
Now that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Are we talking about precognition, a true vision of things to come?
Right.
Or is it more about pattern recognition, just a deep understanding of historical cycles and societal patterns?
And their limitations.
We don't want to fall into that trap of blindly believing everything or dismissing it all as like just random guesses.
Right, we gotta find that balance.
We should use these predictions as chances to reflect, to talk about these things, ask ourselves what they reveal about our hopes and fears, anxieties, our aspirations for the future.
Absolutely.
Now, what about the interpretation of these predictions, especially when it comes to the Bible?
Right.
But how literally are we supposed to take these prophecies?
That's a question people have been wrestling with for centuries.
I bet.
Some interpretations really emphasize a literal fulfillment of prophecy, while others lean towards a more symbolic or allegorical understanding.
So it's not about dictating one correct interpretation,
No.
but more about encouraging thoughtful engagement with these complex ideas.
Exactly. It's about recognizing the richness and diversity of interpretations.
Yeah.
But also acknowledging how these prophecies can impact how we see the world and our place in it.
But
Right.
we be stocking up on canned goods and building bunkers.
Yeah.
Or is there a different way to think about these predictions? I think the main thing is not to freak out.
Yeah, don't panic.
Don't get caught up in all the fear-mongering.
Right. Instead, let's use these predictions as a chance to really think critically and figure out how we can take positive action.
I like that.
What are these predictions telling us about what people are worried about and what they hope for?
Yeah.
How can we use this information to be better, more engaged citizens?
Actually make a difference.
Absolutely. That's what knowledge is for, right? It should empower us to think critically, engage constructively, and just navigate this crazy world with wisdom and compassion.
A new world coming.
Right.
It's like this cosmic tug of war, good versus evil, battling it out for the fate of humanity.
That's a powerful way to put it. It highlights the tension at the heart of all this: destruction and renewal.
You even talked about the nature of prediction itself.
It's how we choose to interpret these predictions, whether we see them as warnings or opportunities. That shapes how we understand the world and our place in it. Let's use these predictions as a starting point for deeper reflection, meaningful conversations, and a renewed commitment to making the future better, no matter what challenges come our way.
I love that. Both The Simpsons and the Bible seem to agree big changes are on the horizon.
It seems so.
But are we headed for destruction or transformation? What do you think?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
And I don't think there's an easy answer. Maybe it's not an either situation. Maybe it's both. Destruction and creation, they often go hand in hand. Like, think about a forest fire. It can be devastating, but it also makes way for new growth.
Wow, that's a powerful image. So maybe these predictions, whether we take them literally or symbolically, are meant to, wake us up, make us think critically about the choices we're making.
Exactly. They're a reminder that the future isn't set in stone. We have the power to shape it, to change the course of events through our actions, our choices, our collective will.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking out different perspectives.
And the more we learn, the better equipped we are to face the challenges and embrace the possibilities that lie ahead.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through Simpsons predictions and biblical prophecy. Until next time, keep those minds open and those questions coming.